Hello, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Bite Size Cybercrime, the podcast where we discuss cybercrimes and cybersecurity news. This week we will be talking about a North Korean remote IT work scheme, which I have covered before, but I just think this is so incredibly fascinating. We actually now also have a lot of information on who was running one laptop farm and how this scheme to get North Korean workers to infiltrate organizations actually was working. An Arizona woman was sentenced to 8.5 years in prison after pleading guilty to her involvement in one of these schemes. She helped North Korean IT workers infiltrate 309 U.S. companies, according to court documents. She was charged in May of 2024 with aggravated identity theft, conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to commit money laundering, identity fraud, and bank fraud. Her sentencing, however, was just last week. She ran an online platform called UpWorkCell, which provided services to the North Korean threat actors, giving them fake identities of U.S. citizens that could be used to hunt for remote IT positions in the United States. The website was since seized by the Department of Justice during the investigation and has since been taken down. According to court documents, the woman was hosting a laptop farm from October of 2020 for exactly 3 years, until October of 2023, until she was arrested. The laptops were hosted in the United States, but were remoted into by threat actors from North Korea, making it seem like they were based in Arizona in the United States, which wouldn't really raise any red flags for U.S. employers hiring for remote work. They were typically hired as software developers at multiple companies, including Fortune 500s. This includes an aerospace defense company, a major television network, a Silicon Valley tech company, a car company, a luxury retailer, and an entertainment company, all currently being kept anonymous for the time being. There were also at least 2 instances of these threat actors attempting to land jobs at different U.S. government agencies, which, if it did happen, would be a massive national security issue for the United States. It's honestly pretty crazy how deep this rabbit hole goes when it seems like such a convoluted plan. I initially thought that when this happened to Nobi 4 that it was more of a weird, fringe, isolated incident, but no. This is a widespread issue, and it's not just impacting small organizations. The North Korean workers collected over $17 million altogether as revenue for their jobs, which was shared with the woman hosting the laptop farm, hence that was part of her motivation. She was actually the one processing the checks via her financial accounts after all. So again, because this was going into a US bank account, it didn't look so suspicious. Some of these organizations also sent the woman company laptops that were supposed to be used by the employees to work on, and she actually shipped 49 of these laptops supplied by the companies, who are again entirely unaware they are hiring these North Korean threat actors, to a city in China that shares a border with North Korea. You can't ship things, especially not laptops, directly to North Korea for rather obvious reasons, but China is A-OK. So someone in China would receive the shipments and get them into North Korea for the threat actors. In October of 2023, when her operation was busted and a search warrant was executed, over 90 laptops were seized from her home. These were the ones being used by the threat actors pretending to work out of the United States. So, how can you avoid accidentally hiring a North Korean threat actor? I would say I never expected to write that sentence in an episode script, but honestly, nothing surprises me anymore these days. Especially when you're hiring remote workers, approach with extra scrutiny. Make sure all ID verification documents match up and align with publicly available social media profiles. Call the references on the resume and make sure they actually worked there. And make sure it's the correct contact information for that reference as well. Contact info of someone you can confirm also did, or at least used to work at the place they said they did. Since they're remote, you'll likely have to do a Zoom meeting, enforce cameras being turned on, and train interviewers to ask them to wave their hand in front of their face briefly to check for any AI video glitches. Because using AI to deepfake real people is also a thing that these people have been doing. If you are shipping someone a laptop, also make sure the shipping address they provide matches with the ones on their identification documents. or can at least be traced back to a home owned by the individual, or perhaps a lease that's been signed by them. If their driver's license says they live in Illinois, but their shipping address is in Arizona, for example, that's kinda weird, unless they recently moved. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Bite-Sized Cybercrime, and thank you to Bleeping Computer and the Hacker News for information on this incident. I always find these cases super interesting, and I hope you do as well. And until next time, stay secure.